Good evening. Again, thank you for being here live. And those of you that are watching this recording, glad you're with me this semester, this fall to 2025 semester. First, I want to say just thank you and congratulations on surviving banner. The entire district, not just our college, has shifted over to using this new banner system. We've had our challenges. And I know for a lot of you for registration and adding and stuff has been very different. Um, all that to say, moving forward for the next 8 weeks, we'll be largely using Canvas, and there's no problems with Canvas. Everything's working great there. And we're going to look at that tonight as well. So my goals for you this evening, if I haven't had you in class before, I'll give you just some background information on me, just so you know where I'm coming from and kind of the perspective I'm bringing to class. Um, Secondly, I'm going to show you Canvas and where to find everything that you'll need. You'll be able to see exactly what's expected of you in the class. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about points and basically how to meet your goals in this class. If your goal is to get an A in this class, I want to show you how to get that A. I want to help support you in your goals. If your goal is to just survive and get state credit and keep your job and take care of your family and to keep your kids alive while you're taking this class, then get your C. I want to help you get that and move on towards licensure. You're not going to hurt my feelings as far as your grade is concerned. I want to help you get where you need to go. So let's get going. Again, first I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I got licensed in real estate in 2002. Gosh, what is that? 23 years ago. Holy cow. Um, I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law at a holiday family dinner, and we started talking about passive income. He gave me, I think they were actually cassette tapes of Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we started discussing the idea of passive income and long-term wealth, generational wealth, and those kind of things. And so we decided that we wanted to pursue investing in real estate. And so the next thing he said was, Rick, you got to go get your real estate license. And I said, I don't want to be a real estate agent. Like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you have to figure out how the business works and what is a good deal and how to find good deals. I need you to go and learn the industry so that we can invest, more smartly. Okay. And so I jumped in, got my license 2002, and worked full time for 9 years. Just like you would use an agent to buy or sell a house, I did that with apartment buildings. So kind of like a foot in the commercial world, or more specifically, the commercial finance world a little bit, with this kind of mix of residential units um, and landlords and investors, right? So a little bit less emotional kind of shopping and analysis. Like when you're selling a home, you might be looking at the architecture and the paint colors and the floor layouts. With investors, it's largely about dollars and how much money will the investment make. And so I really enjoyed one of the things I appreciate about that side of the business is that it gave me an outside perspective of real estate and that it's not just homes. Um, the perspective with investment, different ways to purchase property, different ways to finance property, different types of property. It's not just residential. There's commercial and retail and office space and warehouses and parking lots, timeshare ownership. I mean, there's so many different ways to own real estate that we just don't think about because we often think about, just our homes and where we're living. So I do appreciate the experience that I had in the industry. Uh, Overlapping that experience, I started teaching at nights, first at Orange Coast College, and just realized that I really enjoyed teaching at night. And then my, day in and day out sales work, right? I was self-employed, but it's a job. My day in and day out sales job was really wearing on me, and I realized that I really wanted to focus on higher education and teaching. And so after 9 years of real estate, I made that transition. Worked for a university for 4 years administratively. While I was in real estate, I started going back to school and completed my master's in business. I really wanted to learn how to do business. Was able to use that for the university. And while I was at the university, I went into their doctorate program. So I've had a lot of the life experience of real estate. I've been self-employed in some way or another since I was 18. So I think there's a bit of like entrepreneurship or that entrepreneurial thinking that can benefit you in real estate. And I really want to encourage you, that it's hard to start a business and to run a business. It's hard to be a business owner. Most businesses fail in the first year or two. I don't want to discourage you. Real estate is one of the easiest ways to get into business ownership. You take 3 classes and you pass the state test, and it's a way to get into business and business ownership, where you have control over your future. And so the encouragement there, especially with real estate, is that there's not one way to do it. So long as it's legal, you can figure out your own way on how to make money with real estate, whether that's investing with other people or helping other people invest, um, helping people buy and sell property, uh, development, property management. There's so many areas of real estate that just might not be coming to mind automatically. So hopefully that's an encouragement for you, right? There's a ton of different ways to do this business, and there's probably future ways to do this business that may not even exist today, which is kind of a trip to think about. Um, I don't think agents are going away. I think people, when you're in the process of purchasing something huge, whether it's an expensive car, a house, oftentimes we want to get input from a professional, right? And so I feel like there's always going to be a world where real estate agents and real estate investors and consultants have job opportunity because there's always going to be people looking for knowledge. So hopefully that's encouraging for you. Um, let's move on into our next step. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. So that's a little bit of information about me. I've been at IVC now. I just had my 10-year anniversary, so I'm super stoked. We have some great opportunities at Irvine Valley College. Just last semester and running again this semester, we have non-credit real estate as well. So all of our credit courses focus on licensure. Of course, there's letter grades. You can use those units for transfer. We also now have non-credit, which means that there are not letter grades. The state is funding those. So those non-credit classes are actually free for students. We have classes open right now that started this week. We have another 2 classes that start in the second 8 weeks. I encourage you to look at the schedule if you're looking to just gain life knowledge about real estate. Those will not count toward your licensure, but they will help you learn about real practical, functional real estate stuff. Uh, yeah. And I can answer any questions about those as we go through. Again, feel free to use the chat with questions that pop up. We are looking at Canvas. You are in this class right now, either in real estate principles or legal aspect of real estate, sometimes called real estate law. Um, these 2 classes, whether you're in one or both of those classes, the Canvas shell that I'm going to show you tonight looks very, very similar, almost identical in both of those classes. Now, the content is different, but my layout I have been tweaking for 10 years at IVC, and I feel like I've really kind of honed in on what works for my students. So let me go through that with you so you know exactly where to find your information. You'll see on this Canvas shell, it looks super basic. It looks simple. It looks minimalistic, and that's on purpose. So we're going to go through what these tabs are. And the primary tab, just to say it up front, will be this modules tab. But we're going to look at all 4 of these tabs here. So first up, this is the home page when you first open up Canvas or click on the class. I am in student view right now, so hopefully this looks like what you will see when you log in. You'll see really quick an overview of the announcements that are posted. If you have not used Canvas before at IVC, please, when you log in, go to your account and click on this notifications link. This notifications link lets you control how you get your information. So you can click on email or texting, and if it's an announcement or a grade change or a message or anything like that, you can control if you get that immediately at the end of the day, at the end of the week, whenever you want to see it. So I love this part about Canvas that it allows you to control how you get your information. Please do go through those notifications if you haven't done it before. So here are the announcements. I'm assuming you're here. Those of you that are here with me live, you got these in your email. You can view them here in Canvas. Here is some static information on the class. The link where you will buy your virtual book, we'll go through and look at that as well. A link to the syllabus. We are going to review this tonight in our hour. You can see my office hours. I am on campus from 1 to 3 on Tuesdays. Wednesdays 10 to 1 on Zoom. Here's the link for the Zoom. If you can't make it at these times, no problem. Send me an email. Let me know when you're available, and I'll try to meet with you. I'm coming from self-employment world, right? So I'm often checking my email. I kind of treat my students kind of like my customers. When you email me, I try to reply back quickly. And so I usually am able to reply back pretty quickly. I am human, right? So it might take me a day, or if I haven't replied back in 2 days, please email me again. But largely, I'm able to reply back pretty quick and oftentimes at night too. So if you have a question that comes up, no problem. Send me an email. That's going to be the fastest way for me to get back to you. If you want to come, and talk to me face to face, you can do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, no problem. Or again, after these times, we can arrange a time and I can do a Zoom session with you and chat. The IVC website has a ton of resources available, and you have tech support for this Canvas system. For our virtual book that we're using for these classes, here is the tech support for them. It's called Great River Learning GRL, and this is the contacts for them and their tech support. It's a pretty stable website, though. I've had very few issues with it going down or having problems. So, but if it does, here's something freak happens to your account, you can't see your work, do reach out to them. Excuse me. Here, this may look a little overwhelming for you, but this is every assignment in the class for our next 8 weeks together. So here's our course summary. If this looks overwhelming, I'm going to show you a different view that looks maybe a little bit more palatable. But this, chronologically goes through every assignment that we have over the next 8 weeks. It's already preset, already scheduled out. You know exactly what's required of you here. I work really hard with my online classes to make sure everything is in order. It's scheduled, it's assigned, and there should not be any surprises over the next 8 weeks. Um, I try to keep things as consistent as possible so that when you are doing your work, you don't have to worry about other things outside kind of distracting you or confusing you. So that is our home page. Again, we're going to review the virtual book and the syllabus in just a minute. Next up, we have our announcements tab. Again, you see a preview there, but here, I apologize. Here you'll be able to see all of our announcements from the class to date. And here's our big tab, modules. Now, we just saw a list of every assignment available to you. The modules, I have everything broken down week by week. So it's a little bit more, again, palatable. You kind of like take each chunk at a time. Because all of my students in real estate, either in my classes or in other classes that I'm not teaching, everybody's coming from different perspectives. I have sometimes high school students that might be 16. I might have, grandparents that are in their 60s in this class together. Maybe coming from all different technological backgrounds or experiences, maybe different life experiences. Obviously, if you're 16 versus 60, there's a lot of life in between there. Maybe you're coming from a different country and you have a lot of experience from another culture, another um, business environment. So I have developed this student orientation. The idea of this orientation is to make sure that everybody, wherever you're coming from, is kind of coming in at the same place. I'm preparing you and I'm giving you what you need to know prior to coming into this online class. Now, you may look at this and go, "Oh, I don't need this information," and that's fine. But make sure if you have a question and you haven't done this, come back and review this. There's a lot of good information in here. The point of this orientation, again, is to ramp you up and make sure you're ready to go. A lot of these are some of these are just links. These, like you'll see an intro. These are videos of me that are just a couple minutes long to get you raring to go. Again, you see you haven't used Great River Learning, GRL. Here's the link that can show you how to do that. I do have a quiz. This student orientation quiz. I have it set up for the end of the week. please get in there and jump in there again just to help you get going into the class. This is worth 10 points. You can take it multiple times. So do your best. You can go through it a couple times. If your goal is to get it in this class, here's an easy 10 points for you. You'll see week one. We are in week one. We are halfway through week one already. As we're talking here tonight, it's Thursday. And so realize we're going to go through kind of what this looks like. There are some assignments that are typically due on Thursdays. I give a little bit of grace in the week, in the first week, but you'll see kind of our flow here. I want you to log into GRL to see that content from the book. You have a discussion board. Our discussion boards are typically due on Thursday. Your initial post, your answer in your discussion board question. Week one is just an introduction. It's not meant to be hard. We just want to kind of meet each other and see how you're doing, where you're coming from, what your goals are, what you want to do with this information. The discussion boards I have you do, I'll go ahead and open it up. Again, this first one is about an introduction, but it's due Thursday night. So you cannot see anybody else's posts until you respond first. And there's a rubric here to give you an idea of what the points are. Um, you can see that it's worth 10 points for the discussion board posts. Here's your initial response, your own discussion board post, and then you are going to be responding to classmates in the class as well. Largely, what I'm looking for in the discussion boards is your opinion. And so, great news, there is no right or wrong answer when you're talking about the discussion boards. It's pretty great because I'm asking about your opinion. So when the discussion board prompt says, hey, what do you think about this? You're going to have to be familiar enough with that topic, right? I'm taking a topic out of the book material. You can do some research on your own outside of that book as well. But I want you to be able to form your own opinion. And here's the important piece, answer why. Hey, I agree with this because I disagree with this because. If I had to choose to buy property in this way, I would do it this way because. And so I'm really looking for that why, that because behind your answer. I do give you kind of a quantity here in these point categories, which is kind of a range, right? If you're just writing one sentence, that's not much of a discussion, right? That's more of just a statement. And so you might get 1 point for that, right? If you're talking about describing your perspective and giving us the because, we're looking at 3 to 4 sentences there. This is due by Thursday night. By Sunday, at the end of each week, we have your responses due. Now, you can do them earlier, but by Sunday, we want to have 2 responses. Again, there's some quantity here, but really, think about yourself standing in a class and we're having a conversation. And then on break or after class, you start discussing something with one of your students in the class, right? One of your peers in the class. And you say, oh, that's an interesting perspective. I agree with you, but my experience is a little bit different because of this, this, and that, right? We're talking about a conversation here. And so really with this online work, we're looking at kind of supplementing where we don't have that live interaction happening in the classroom. That being said, these are timely, right? So after Sunday, again, just to be a little repetitive, Thursday night for your initial post, your responses by Sunday night, and then by Monday, we have the next discussion board open, and the whole class is in a new discussion, not in this discussion board anymore. So oftentimes a question comes up, Rick, I miss posting. Can I post late? Can I make it up? Well, it's like you're standing in a room by yourself. Like, who does that benefit? The whole class has moved on to a different discussion now, right? And so I'm very, I guess, firm, strict on the discussion boards. And we'll talk a little bit about late work. But the discussion boards, again, it just doesn't really make sense to go backwards and sit in yourself, type stuff out by yourself that nobody will ever see. So discussion boards don't really work for late work. Let's go back to the modules tab just to be kind of clear here. Again, the orientation module is here. We're talking about week one this week. So tonight, Thursday night, right, your discussion board initial post is due. You should be in there. Please do if you have not yet. Please log into Canvas. I am required by law to drop anybody that has not attended class. And since we're fully online, I need to see that you've logged into Canvas. So please do get into Canvas as soon as possible. I'm supposed to drop people like tomorrow if you haven't logged in. You'll see here I have a lecture, a video lecture. Since I'm not standing in front of you in a classroom, I have a lecture. This lecture usually looks like, a shared screen. You get to see my beautiful face. And I oftentimes will share kind of a notebook app, and I'll take notes on screen as well. And so I found that with the video lectures, what I try to do is take some of the concepts out of chapter one, out of chapter two, and I'm giving some real life perspective to those concepts. Maybe explaining them a little bit further, but I want you to have some perspective, not just about this basic foundational theory and law of real estate. I want you to have some real life perspective as well. That's what I try to pull out in the video lectures. I'm talking about it, you're seeing me write about it, and then maybe you're taking your own notes. And so hopefully with all of those inputs, you're able to hold on to those concepts a little bit better. In Great River Learning, there are chapter quizzes, and you'll see we have a quiz for every chapter. I'm giving you points for these. And so as you read, you're taking the quizzes. The quizzes you can take multiple times, and the highest grade will save. So if your goal is to get an A in the class, you're going to be maxing out those points in the quizzes. It does take some time, right? But it's not difficult. The quizzes are just reviews over the chapter work, chapter reading. Um, yeah, you'll see that week two, very similar layout. Some lecture videos, discussion board due Thursday and Sunday, chapter quizzes due by Sunday. Week three, virtual lectures, discussion board Thursday, Sunday, quizzes by Sunday. And then you'll see week three, I give you a little bit of time to ramp up the first couple weeks, but in week three, I add in an exercise. Now, the exercises are not meant to be hard. They're usually like 1 to maybe 2 pages, but usually about 1 page. I'm giving you something to do. We're taking a theory, a concept out of the chapter that week, and I'm having you kind of dive into the real world with these exercises. They're very clear, they're step-by-step to-dos. But again, it's kind of getting your hands wet, your feet wet. What's the term there? Your hands dirty and your feet wet. That's what it is. Um, with some of the real world perspective of these concepts that you're learning in the chapters and in lectures. And it continues on. So pretty consistent. Again, it's simple on purpose so that it's super clear, you know exactly where to go and what to do every week. In addition to visiting these modules, I will be sending you out announcements every week on Mondays to remind you, hey, this is what to do this week. We only have 8 weeks together. And so there's not a lot of leeway as far as like trying to catch up, right? If you get behind in 1 week, and then, the next week, it's like, 4 chapters to cover. It's a lot of work. We'll look at GR. Let's go back to the homepage. We'll look at the GRL link real quick because I think it's important. And then we'll jump into the syllabus. So if you have not used Great River Learning, totally fine. We are using the content of, let's pretend first like I've never done this before. We're looking at the content, the words of Dearborn textbooks. They've been doing real estate education for a long, long, long time in almost all of the states of our nation. And so they have a huge bank of books, and they're pretty professional books, which I really appreciate out of all of the real estate books. But this system, Great River Learning, is our online kind of function of these books. So you can see when you go to Irvine Valley College, you're going to be either clicking on our real estate law, which is our legal aspects of real estate, right? RE 174 or 170 principles class. Let's just look at that one for kicks. Now, I'm not going to go into the instruction. We're just looking at how to purchase right now. We do also, or should soon, have access codes into the bookstore. I mentioned we use survived banner so far. We also have a new bookstore running on campus. This is the first semester, so there's some growing pains there as well. You can buy here, or again, you can buy hopefully soon at the bookstore and access code. And then here's your purchase, just like, pretty much any other online purchase. You'll log in after with your email address. So that is how you purchase. If you want to look at how Great River Learning works, we just saw in Canvas in our orientation, I have a video on that. So you can do that. I'll make a quick note here about GRL, the Great River Learning Online System. It is meant to be flexible for you.
Excuse me?
Uh, oh, hold on a sec.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. So just a quick question. So you said that we should use an email right there to have like our information or to easily access it, right?
Well, when you log into GRL or go through that purchase function, you're putting in all of your information. Yeah.
Okay, so personal, right? So we
It doesn't
don't
matter. Whatever
doesn't
email
matter?
you'll have access to. Yeah, that system, at least in that function, does not connect to our system, so it can be whatever email you want.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, sorry, let me come back and click through here. There we go. So the question, yeah. So in regards to Great River Learning, you can use your personal email or school email. It doesn't matter there which email, so long as you have access to it. So yeah, any email address there can work for you. Again, in the orientation page, it goes a little bit more in depth. I will say right now for Great River Learning, um, it's meant to be flexible for you. I was saying you can use your computer, you can use a tablet, you can use your phone to access this system. I have had students go through my whole class on a phone. Now, that would be hard for me personally, right, with Zooming and kind of going in. But basically, I've tried to provide you content and access and resources for whatever technology you have. So it's meant to be flexible and for you to come back to whatever device you're using when you log in. Each chapter is broken down into pages. So let's just say you're in chapter one, page two. At the end of page two, and you're reading on page two, there will be a knowledge check. The idea of that is to make it a little bit more interactive. You're not just reading words on page, but you're answering some questions about what you just read. Then you go to page three. These knowledge checks at the bottom of pages two and three and four are not graded, and they're there just to help you comprehend what you're reading. What is graded is at the end of chapter one, where it says chapter quiz. And that you'll see it says this is graded. And you will also be able to view that grade book in GRL to see the points that you're earning in the GRL system with your quizzes and then with the final exam at the end of the class. There's a question, do you have to buy a hard book? You do not have to buy a hard book. And I would suggest, unless you really want to hold a hard copy book, um, don't buy that. The fastest way is to purchase it directly here with the link that I just showed you. That is also the cheapest way to get the book. However, if being an IBC student, you have some sort of credit or access to the IBC bookstore, you should be able to buy access through the bookstore. Again, with it being a new bookstore, we're still trying to figure out some of how that will work. But ideally, you're supposed to be able to buy it through the bookstore as well. It's going to be more expensive because the bookstore marks it up. That's just life, right? But if you have credit there, maybe through financial aid, or I know a lot of veteran students, and have access to bookstore funds and to be able to purchase, that's awesome. That should be ramped up here pretty soon. Oh yeah, if you're not in the area, right? Yeah, the online purchase is definitely going to be a faster, quicker, and cheaper route if you're paying cash. Awesome. So that's what Canvas looks like. Kind of the system, the schedule. You're seeing kind of every assignment and thing to do, week by week in the modules tab. Let's go ahead and share and review the syllabus, which will talk a little bit more about the points and how to achieve your goals in this class. Now, if your goal is to transfer, these classes, credit classes, can go usually as elective credit. For transfer, many of you might be interested in getting a license someday, or you're trying to figure out if you want to get your license someday. The state of California requires real estate principles, real estate practice, and then a third class, which can be an elective, which can be legal aspects or any of the other real estate credit classes that we have at IVC. It can also be some other business classes that you might have taken or might have to take, depending on your situation. Some of those classes might be business law, micro macro economics, accounting, I think managerial and the other one. So there are several classes if you want to take a different elective as the third class. So what you're looking at right now is the syllabus for legal aspects. But again, just like the Canvas shell, if you're taking real estate principles right now, this looks almost identical except for the content, the chapters, and what we're talking about. But the system and the layout was almost identical. So as a student, I really prefer to see kind of a one pager. That's what you're seeing here. Let me take a quick pause. Um, sorry, my chat is kind of messing up here in Zoom. All right, hopefully you can see this okay. It's kind of big on my screen, but here is I'm starting on the back end at the end of the syllabus first because I want to show you kind of in this one screenshot of our flow of information. You'll see we're covering about 2 chapters a week all the way through our 8 weeks. I do have some additional dates that are put in here. These are just to try to help you out. Please confirm these dates in my site or a banner. Um, if you're looking at having to drop or with a refund, that's tomorrow, or drop with a W, right? Those are dates are in here just for your convenience. You'll see kind of the flow of our assignments. The chapter quizzes, reading the chapter and the chapter quizzes each week for each chapter. We have the discussion boards in here. Again, week 2, 2 more chapters, discussion board. Week 3, 2 more chapters, a discussion board, and that exercise 1. So you'll see I start sprinkling in those exercises, giving you, trying to space them out a little bit. But again, trying to give you a little bit of that real world perspective as you're learning about more and more of these concepts in real estate. So I think with through this, please use the chat to answer any questions as I go along. So you'll see, uh, if anything, things are a little bit lighter in this first week, again, because here we are already, halfway through the first week. But we will slowly ramp up and get more and more consistent as we go along with the work. If your goal is to get an A, here is how you do it. You'll see largely what I've talked about so far is almost all under your control. The chapter quizzes, there's 15 chapters, they're 10 points each. That is 33% of your grade. Those chapter quizzes that you're taking in GRL, you can take them over and over again until you get the highest points. So if your goal is to get an A in this class, you're going to be retaking your quizzes until you max out your points, 10 points each chapter. It saves your highest score. The discussion boards. The discussion boards take some effort. There's one every week except for the last week. The discussion boards are meant to have you know enough about the concepts that we're learning about so that you can have opinion about it. And that discussion board is just simply asking your opinion. Again, there's no right or wrong with your answer and the because, right? You're going to be supporting your answer in the discussion board. And as we saw with the rubric, you're going to be responding to other students in the class. 10 points each. You have total control over that, right? It, again, does take some time, does take some effort. But if you want an A, you can do this. Spend some time every week. The exercises, again, these are not meant to be hard. These are, in essence, little projects, again, usually about a page. and allows you to look at the concepts that we're learning about and put in some real world. They typically look like, me giving you an explanation and asking a question, you answering that question. They're laid out pretty easily. If we have some extra time, maybe I'll open up one of those just so you can see it. But I don't want to overwhelm you. I want you to get going into week one, week two. You can check out that exercise soon. Those are 20 points each, 17% of your grade. You have control over that. The final exam. Now, uh, these classes count towards state licensure, right? These are state approved classes. I'm slowly preparing you with this system and with the final exams as well, slowly preparing you for that state exam. So the final exam, you do take it on your computer. It's multiple choice, just like the state. And I'm giving you the same amount of time that you would have equivalent to the state. So the final exam is 100 questions. I'm giving you the same minutes per question that the state gives you on their 150 questions. You can see that it's worth a bigger chunk of your grade. But if you do this math, and if you, here's my perspective on business, if you're showing up to work and you're getting your stuff done, you're largely going to be able to keep your job, right? Now, if you want to excel, you want to get promoted, you're going to be working extra hard, right? But I've tried to build my class kind of like real world business here. If you show up and you get your stuff done, you can pass the class. Notice the points here. If you were to get a 50% on your final exam, but you did everything else every week, you can still get what is that? A B in the class? Getting a 50% on your final, you can still get a B in this class if you show up and get your stuff done every day, every week. So, I hopefully that is encouraging for you. I know a lot of people have test anxiety, or it's just the idea that you're busy and have to study for an exam, and then so much of your grade is dependent on this one final exam. You just get one shot at it, and it's timed and it's stressful. But again, real world perspective here. If you're showing up every week, getting your stuff done, that final exam means a lot less. And so hopefully that can encourage you to jump in and get going this week and as we move forward. Every semester, I have a student say, "Oh, I don't care about my grade. I don't care if I get an A or a C. I'm not a college student. I'm going to take a pass, no pass." Now, you have the right to do that. I have never seen it help a student, though. So, unless you know for sure in your circumstance that for some reason that's going to help you, then do what you're going to do, right? It's up to you. But if you're like, maybe I should do pass, no pass, I would suggest don't do it. Just keep your letter grade. And here's why. The Department of Real Estate will accept a letter grade of D for credit for this class for your state licensure exam. If you select pass, no pass, and you happen to get a D in this class, I know nobody comes in expecting to get a D or planning to get a D, but it happens. If you select pass, no pass, and you get a D in this class, based on your points that you earn, I have to give you a no pass. That will not count for the DRE exam. If you get a D, letter grade D, the state Department of Real Estate will take that D as passing. And I know this because I got a D in my principal's class when I was in your seat. I sometimes tell that story, but I haven't had a time yet. So I suggest do take your letter grade of take your letter grade option, just which is the default, right? Everybody right now is on a letter grade unless you select pass, no pass. Notice the language that I used, the grades that you earn, right? All of these points are on you. These points are not whether I like you or not, right? It has nothing, it's not subjective. Here's the system that's been developed. Again, I've tweaked it over the years to try to make it as fair as possible and to give you as much opportunity as possible. You have a full week to get all of your work done in this class. Every week, it's a full week of time to get your work done. So that takes discipline, takes some foresight, takes some commitment on your part. Absolutely. But with that flexibility and with this ability to work hard and get a better grade and less weight on your exam, with that flexibility, I am more rigid with late work because I give you that full week. You have a lot of opportunity here. So, oh, I wasn't feeling good. Oh, I had to leave town. I couldn't get it done. uh, this is business. This is real world. Um, so I would encourage you to try to plan ahead. We are online, super flexible. You have a full week to get your stuff done. Try to stay on that schedule. This section of the syllabus kind of explains things that I just went over, but you can obviously, come back and review this. I have a note. This really relates to an older system. I have this note in here, but I believe I leave it in here on purpose because I put this in here as a guide. So it's not a requirement for you to pass every quiz with an 80%, but I feel like if you're going to progress through this content and you really kind of want to make sense and you're preparing for that final in 7 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, that you're going to want to kind of aim for at least an 80% on the quizzes. And that way, hopefully you're retaining with that repetition of the quizzes, you're retaining some of that information. I do give also, I mentioned with flexibility and the potential of test anxiety and all those things. I do give you an opportunity on the final exam that if you score on your first attempt, if you score less than 60%, if you fail that first exam, there is a second version of the exam that you can take. Not the same questions, totally different test, different questions, but there's a second version. I'm giving you just as much opportunity as I can here, right, to help you pass, do well, move on to meet your goals. And all of course, as we get towards the end, I'll explain all this again, but it's here in the syllabus for you. Exercises we talked about, discussion boards we talked about. Here's that note, late work will not be accepted, especially on the discussion boards, because the whole class is only in there for that week. Here is an IVC thing. I did not create this, but this associates your percentage with your grade. IVC does not do pluses and minuses on their letter grades, which I like. I prefer this. And so if you're working through this semester, and here we are at week 8, you take that final exam, and Canvas says you have an 88%, you can see what that letter grade is. At the end of the class, there's always at least one. Hey, Rick, is there anything I can do? Well, the class is over and you had 8 weeks to get all this work done. When the class is over, no, there's nothing else you can do. I've given you a lot of flexibility, a lot of opportunity to earn those points, and this is on you, right? You have to earn this, and you have to learn this information. So again, this percentage, what you learn in Canvas, is what associates with that letter grade. I don't give you a grade, right? In this class, you are earning your grade, which is great, right? It's in your hands. A lot of this is kind of just boilerplate stuff. Again, if you go through this and want to ask questions, feel free. I think this office just changed their name, but it has the same initials. I put these links and information in here. Of course, the IVC website has a ton of resources available as well. If you have any challenges in this class, or during this semester as an IVC student, I just want to encourage you to reach out. We have a lot of support. We have a lot of resources for our students at IVC. It's a great campus. I have great colleagues. We have great resources. If you're challenged right now or during the semester, please reach out. I'm happy to try to help and direct you. Um, or maybe you don't want to come to me, that's fine too. Here are some phone numbers and links for you to use. And again, the IVC website, there's a ton of stuff. But just to throw out a couple items, we have a veteran student like office, right? A vet. Um, the name has escaped me, but there's resources there. We have a whole department that's dedicated to help like previous foster youth that maybe grew up or in the system. We have resources available at the library. If you're on campus, you can walk in and get help at the library. We have hotspots and computers to borrow if you are having inconsistent internet or technological issues. If you don't have food, there's a food bank on campus. There's clothes on campus. There's emergency housing, not ongoing housing, right? But if you're like in trouble and you need somewhere to sleep, like there's resources on the campus to help. And this is one of the reasons why I love community colleges. And I look back and I went to a community college outside of high school after high school for 2 years too. I had some of my best teachers there. Our whole job as teachers at the community college is to help support you and help you learn. Those of you that are transferring, once you go on to your 4-year university, you'll find out that a lot of your teachers are really researchers or they're authors. They have to publish to keep their jobs. They're not just teachers. At the community college, our whole job is about teaching you and supporting you. And we have the resources on campus to help you do that too. So I love the community college system. Whether you're, sleeping in your car, you have $1 million in your bank account, you're getting the same access to the same teaching, the same resources on campus. Let us help you if you're having challenges. Please reach out. Again, I mentioned email communications. That's the quickest way for me. Oh, that's funny. There's actually a reference to Blackboard in here. Sorry, old language. We use Canvas now. So to reiterate, we're using two systems for this class, whether it's principles or legal aspects of real estate right now. We're using Canvas, which we looked at, which you will use for almost all of your IVC classes. We saw that on screen. The second system is the Great River Learning, our virtual digital textbook and quizzes and final exam will be in that system. And again, you can use the link here to purchase, or again, if we should have stuff buttoned up with the bookstore here soon, if you have access to bookstore credit. Tech support for both right here. All right. Again, to reiterate, we already mentioned this, but two systems, I'm sorry, GRL Dearborn Web Access. They do have a flat, like electronic textbook that you can buy if you want. Hard copy textbook if you want to buy it, but you don't need to. Speaking of resources, if you don't have like Word or like Google Docs, we have access to do Google Docs for at IVC and also the Microsoft Office suite as a student. Real quick note about dropping. If at some point you are going to be done and you just simply cannot do your work in this class, it is your responsibility. I put it on you to drop yourself. Um, Whenever I drop a student, I feel like there's always a complaint or somebody's like, no, I really need this class. So I leave everybody in this class and you earn the letter grade that you earn at the end of this class, right? So if you stop doing all of your work and at the end of this class you have a 50%, you're going to get an F. But at some point, if you know you're going to have to stop working, do drop yourself. I wanted to learn welding after I got my bachelor's, and so I went to Orange Coast College and took a welding class just for fun to learn. And fast forward, I got busy at work. I stopped showing up to welding class. And when I went to apply for my master's program, sure enough, there's my welding OCC F. And the master's program was like, hey, you have an F on your transcripts. Like, that's not good. So I had to do a ton of work to try to get that F gone. But I just stopped showing up. I just assumed the teacher would drop me. So I make it super clear, I will not drop you. After this first week, if you're here, you've showed up, you've logged into Canvas, after this first week, I will not drop you, and you get to earn the grade that you earn in this class. We're fully online. We're only 8 weeks, so it's going to go quick. I'm here to support you. And again, here's a couple ways that I can support you and help you. Uh, my phone number. This is my office phone number. If I don't happen to be sitting there, it's going to come to my email, and then I'm going to have to either figure out a time to call you back or set up a Zoom or something. But do please, I think the fastest way, if you have a question, you want to type it, please email me. Or if you want to meet sometime, you're like, hey, can I pop into your office at 2? Absolutely. So do email me and we can try to arrange for that. My office on campus is up in Bistic, the business science building, and I'm here for you. I think that's all the information. It's kind of a shotgun. We have 8 minutes left. All right, here's a question. How far can you work ahead if I want to do the week 2 assignments in week 1? So I have great question. How far can you work ahead? Um, you can't really. Let me go back to the schedule. If maybe like, hey, I'm going out of town, I have a work thing I have to travel for, whatever your situation is. I have students that will tell me like, hey, I had to go to another country for 2 weeks during the class. I'm like, holy cow. We're online, right? So you have that flexibility. I know some countries are limited on that, but here's what you can do ahead of time. Here's your week two, here's your week three, right? If we're just looking ahead. Week two, you could do your chapter reading and chapter quizzes. When you get into GRL, that is open for you to do. Now, I don't suggest getting too far ahead because when you're doing a discussion board, if you're moving too fast, it might be hard to come back in time to kind of recollect what you were reading about. So your discussion boards are related to the stuff that week. But you can in GRL read ahead and take quizzes ahead of time. Also, the exercise, you can see the week three exercises due at the end of week three, but I usually open those up the previous week. So on those exercises, I actually give you a window of 2 weeks to get those done. So that is another one on exercise weeks and the weeks before you can access and potentially get some week work done a little bit ahead of time. Hopefully that answers your question. The discussion boards, though, are really strict on open and close dates. So those ones, it's going to be that week, just because I have to keep the whole class kind of on track together. Sorry, my son's making noise in the next room. Uh, Great question. All right, here's my quick story. I was taking real estate principles just like you. I'd finished my bachelor's degree, but I went back, like I said, in 2001, 2002 to start taking real estate classes. I raised my hand in class and I said, Teacher, I want to work with investors and I want to sell apartment buildings. I want to earn passive income one day. I want to buy apartment buildings. I want to learn how to do that. The teacher said, you're going to fail. And I said, What? Like, that doesn't make sense. Surely you have all the secrets. You're the teacher. You know everything, right? Um, Let me take you out. I'll buy you a beer and let me pick your brain. And so I actually met the teacher. Probably wouldn't do this today. I met him at a bar and bought him a beer. And I said, Hey, all right, I want to learn how to work with investors and sell apartment buildings. And he said, if you want to succeed in real estate, you have to sell homes. There's no other way to make money in real estate. And I was like deflated. I was bummed out. And so, of course, going back to his class and trying to get through the class, I mean, there wasn't much motivation for me, right? I got a D in his class. Thankfully, I was able to use that to qualify for my egg state exam. But I take the opposite perspective in my classes. And in building this program, I want to show you as many opportunities as possible where you can succeed and make money in the industry. Whether that's with the credit classes or with the new non-credit classes, we will continue to increase those offerings. I've got three new ones coming in spring, three new ones coming next year from now. And so I want to encourage you that this is a really amazing industry that every single person has to deal with. At some point, you are either going to rent or buy something, right? Whether it be an apartment, a house, a condo, something. You're going to have to live somewhere, right? Your business has to operate somewhere. That is all real estate. And I don't think people realize that pretty much everybody in the world, in the US at some point is going to have to deal with real estate contracts, real estate rights, what rights you have as an owner, as a tenant. And so I think it's a huge industry. There's a ton of opportunity to make money. You just have to figure out what that is. And here's my kicker, what you find interesting and what fulfills you, what you enjoy doing. At the end of the day, if you're making $1 million a year and you hate going to work every day, that's not good, right? So I encourage you that getting involved in real estate, do kind of try to find and focus in on whatever niche it is that you enjoy doing. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight as you move along in the program. Um, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. I've answered all the questions in the chat. If there's any additional questions in the chat, I'm going to wait another minute or two here, and then I'll end the recording, and then we can just have more open discussion if you have additional questions. So, but if there's questions about this class, please do use the chat. And I'll tell you another story here. My sister is in real estate. And she might say that she's not in real estate because she doesn't see it that way. But for the last 10 to 12 years, she has worked with commercial property owners and commercial property lessees to take big commercial space and chop it up into smaller commercial space. Some of those you might know as food halls today. 10 years ago, that food hall concept wasn't here. That was a new concept in Orange County only 10 years ago, where you walk into a space and there's 10 different restaurants in that room. Maybe there's small retail in there as well. Maybe there's an extra room in there that is for events or a band plays once a week inside this space. So my sister's done that for the last 10 years. And if you would have asked her, hey, do you want to do real estate? She'd be like, no way. I have no interest in real estate. But she's really kind of fell into this world. It's almost like development, it's almost like property management, but she has figured out a niche where she gets to meet restaurant owners, restaurant developers, and help people open businesses. It's kind of a cool niche. All that to say, again, there's a lot of opportunity, and really the sky's the limit on your creativity and your willingness to learn and your kind of entrepreneurial spirit and finding ways to make money. All right, so I don't see any more chats. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and if there's any additional questions, again, welcome to the real estate program at IVC, fall 2025. Um, I'm happy to have you here in the program and look forward to learning with you, helping you learn, and supporting you on your road to real estate. Thanks for being here.